Hey, what's up guys? Devin here with Backcountry Exposure. Let's talk about trip planning today from the perspective of the weekend warrior as opposed to a long distance hiker. Now, trip planning really is one of those things that will make or break your experience in the backcountry. Yes, you can get lucky and just throw everything together into a bag and you're gonna have a hopefully positive experience, but you can guarantee yourself a way better experience if you take the time to do some simple things that really make a difference in how you plan and prepare for your trip. And there are really 4 specific things that I really emphasize with students to be able to say, this is what you need to do to have a good trip plan before you go out. The first is to have an itinerary. If you've got an itinerary that spells out and draws out everything that you plan to do on that trip, then you're going to guarantee yourself a better experience. You are going to be able to get to the places that you want or be able to set goals for what you want to achieve during that trip. It doesn't mean that you have to set mileage goals and you have to set, I'm gonna get to this particular spot at this time, but you need to have some kind of agenda and itinerary of what the purpose of the trip is and what you are trying to accomplish. Now, before I jump into the other aspects of trip planning, this is a collaboration video with 3 other awesome YouTube channels. 2 of them are fairly new channels to me that I have just recently started watching. Pie on the Trail, Paul Messner, both that are not local here in the United States, who are doing some amazing things with their channels, and so they are also sharing their ideas of trip planning, and so I invite you to go check out their channels. The third person is Dan Becker, who lives in Wisconsin in a different area than me here in Utah. He's going to share his own perspectives of how he plans for backpacking trips as opposed to just listening to me and how I plan for trips. So check out their channels. This is a collaboration. You've got 4 different perspectives of how we each plan for trips based off of the areas that we live. So links down in the description to check out their channels down below. So now that you've created a trip itinerary, you want to create some kind of risk management plan. Now, risk management, I feel like, is such an important part of your backpacking experience. You need to be able to say, I have a plan to be able to get myself out of a situation if things go bad and I'm in a bad way. I need to be able to know who to call if I have the option to call. So do I have a satellite communication device that's going to give me the ability and the option to be able to execute a risk management plan differently than if I don't have a satellite device? If I don't have a satellite device, what have I told loved ones or friends and family before going on the trip what to expect? One of the things that I like to tell my wife that I feel like is really important to do is I will make it a point to say, all right, I'm headed out on Friday morning. This is where I'm going. I will even share screenshots or some kind of route map from the app that I'm using to route, whether it's Topo Maps Plus or Gaia GPS. And by doing that, my wife now has an idea of at least where I would be. So if something really bad happened, she would be able to help search and rescue know where to find me by saying, this is the route that's mapped out on the map and where he said he was going to be. I will then say something like, I plan to be home Sunday around 4 p.m. Freak out time is like 2 a.m. and call search and rescue if you don't hear from me by like 10 a.m. the next morning. Now, the reason that I do that is we are often going into places that don't have cell phone coverage. And so it's hard for me to say, yeah, somebody ended up with a bum knee and we're fine. We're just not making it out. There's a fly attacking my hair. But if somebody ended up with a bum knee, then we're in a good way. Like, we're not in a bad spot that's gonna require us to call search and rescue and whatnot. It's just gonna take us a little bit longer to get out of that situation and get back to the car. And by saying, this is what time I plan to be home, this is freak out time, this is when you need to start taking action to call somebody, makes it so that loved ones at home aren't going crazy and thinking, oh my gosh, he said he'd be home at 4 o'clock and he's not here. Like, that's a big part of a risk management plan, in my opinion. Other things to add to your risk management plan, I feel like, are you've got the proper medical equipment, as well as if you have somebody that has medical training, that you know what training they have and how they might be able to help and take care of situations on the trail, as well as if you are going out with a group. If you know that you have somebody that may have a medical condition, diabetes happens to be one of those things that is pretty common with people. And if you don't know going into a trip that person A has diabetes and maybe they haven't been managing that as well, that could lead to something pretty bad on the trail if they don't know how to manage that or aren't managing it. And then all of a sudden you don't know what is happening with them. But if you know up front that this person has some kind of medical condition, maybe they carry an EpiPen, and you need to know that, yes, I am very allergic to bees and I do carry an EpiPen. Some people don't share that information, but I feel like if you're going to go out with somebody and you have a medical condition, you should share that in private, that is respectful to yourself as well as to the group, to say, if something happens to me, here's what you do to take care of me. Another aspect of planning a trip for me is that you are really taking the time to put together a well thought out gear list. It's important to make sure that the gear that you're taking with you does facilitate having a good experience on the trail. You want to be able to say, yes, I'm carrying this because I'm anticipating to experience these conditions, and so I'm going to carry XYZ pieces of gear to be able to know that I'm going to be taken care of while out on the trail. What you don't want to do is just go buy a bunch of stuff and then say, yeah, cool, I'm great for 3-season backpacking, when you've got a sleeping pad that doesn't work in below freezing temperatures, or a sleeping bag below freezing temperatures. You're carrying a lot of cotton in your backpack. So make sure that you are planning your gear properly for the conditions and situations that you know that you will experience. The last aspect of trip planning that I want to talk about, because they are so readily available and accessible, is you really should be planning out and putting together a map of the area that you're going. I've watched a couple people lately here on YouTube that have been out on trips that while they are out there, they're going, oh man, I wish I would have downloaded these offline maps to be able to know where I'm at, instead of just seeing the GPS mark on the map and not having any data or information to be able to go off of, to then be able to give information of how I might find where I'm trying to go. So the app that I use is called Topo Maps Plus, and it's really easy to be able to map out what you're doing, download various satellite imagery, topo maps, as well as even if you happen to be in an area that has the National Geographic maps, you can download and purchase those as well. And then you just mark out, just like you would like on CalTopo online, which you can do and import into Topo Maps Plus. It's a great resource, and I think mapping out your trip is really, really important to making sure that you are able to follow exactly where you want to go, stay on trail, and if you do happen to get off trail, that you've got some kind of bearing to be able to say, this is how I get back to where I need to go. Those are my ideas, my approaches to trip planning and how you might have a better experience on the trail. Definitely check out the other 3 channels that are participating in this collaboration: Dan Becker, Paul Messner, and Pie on the Trail. They're all gonna have different approaches to how you might plan for a backpacking trip, so definitely check those channels out. Give them a subscription because they're putting out some really awesome content. So guys, thank you for watching. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please do. Hope you have an awesome day. Catch you on the next video. See you later.